What does it mean to be Sri Lankan? You know what Sinhala and Tamil New Year is all about. At 19 years old, I just kind of packed my bags and just left.
I'm leaving to Puerto.
Yeah, I'm leaving. I was born and raised here. When I entered the modeling industry, I was 14.
Whoa.
I never questioned my identity much. When I got into Miss Sri Lanka, it became a sensitive subject. When you start reading the comments and then seeing so many people question me being mixed. So I started my own curly hair business. We realized that there were no products in the market that catered to curly hair. Our hair is basically searching for moisture in the hair because it's so dry.
So we are like the Avatar alien.
Sometimes I do get DMs that are very, very alarming. And I'll be like, no, it's not normal. Reporting the police, there are a lot of creepazoids out there.
Should we do a catfish show?
Let's do a catfish show.
What should we call the show?
We'll give it like a Sri Lankan twist to it.
Pusamang.
Oh God, Jason, man, come on.
I had no idea that poaching was happening within the city when it comes to turtles, which is also sad because little dudes, they're already going through so much. Freaking birds. What else do you want? Now people?
They can never catch a break. Finding Nemo, so it's right.
Yeah. Sade Greenwood. Suba alu tarudak.
Asema Veva.
I wasn't a textbook kid, like in school. Like we both went to the same international school here in Sri Lanka when we were here. I couldn't focus on textbooks, to be very honest. I'm a visual person. So I would watch movies. Like, for example, we talk about the American Civil War. I would go watch, Braveheart. Sorry, not Braveheart. The Patriot.
Okay.
With Mel Gibson.
But that's like a given because I feel like every creative person hates textbooks in school. Once they leave school, you really see them like come up and flourish and everything,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a trade-off. But now I've started to like books again. Like I think in my 30s, I've just come into my 30s, I'm starting to enjoy reading books a lot. And like, especially if like you really like a subject. Like I've learned a lot about the wood industry now.
Okay, that's very interesting.
I'm one of those
wood in general.
Yeah, I was like, let me tell you about the wood industry here.
Like the different types of wood you get, the textures out there,
Actually, it's so funny. The guy, when I was, so there's one of the oldest sample libraries in Wisconsin, in Madison. And the guy pulls up this thing. He was like, "You're from Sri Lanka, right?" I was like, yeah. And then he pulls out the sample that was being investigated for illegal trade of wood that he had got in the 90s.
No way.
And he said Sri Lanka was the only country that still sent mail wrapped in this paper tied with rope and still does the wax seal.
No.
Yeah, and he was just like, dude, that is like one of the coolest packaging. I was like, yeah, that's really like.
To be honest, I take pride in knowing that some of our practices are, a little bit outdated but niche. Okay, we'll take it. We'll take it.
Quality, the quality of it.
Yeah, quality.
Yeah, but then I walked through. I came through customs on the way in, and I had to get you get these certain documents that you have to get released. And so me and this other guy who was going through the customs office. We were just standing in line because there was one customs officer at in the Sri Lankan airport, the Bandaranaike International Airport, serving everyone that needs to get their custom clearance. And the guy was, we were just watching them do the same thing because when you claim for gems and stuff, you have to claim it and then they reseal your package. And so this guy had to get his package resealed, but they seal it the same way I just told you. Like they put it in a package, rope around it. And then they wax the seal. But then us watching, now we just came after a 21-hour flight.
Yeah.
And here we are just standing in customs watching this one guy reseal the package. So he's just like tying the rope very slowly. Then he goes to the candle wax thing. Then he's lighting the wax and he's rotating it. Then he has to tape it again. So he lost the part where the tape folds.
Oh, no.
So he's like doing this, trying to find
where the tape is.
And then we're just like looking at each other like, oh my God, this is, as much as I like it, it wasn't the most.
It wasn't the best time to be looking at old practices, outdated practices. That's wild.
That's a drawback. That's a drawback.
That's crazy though. But that's interesting. Wood is interesting. That's an industry that is definitely, underrated.
100%. And then once you get to know like what is actually from Sri Lanka and what was brought in with many years ago with the Portuguese, what they brought in and planted here in Sri Lanka too. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
How's your life been? What have you been up to?
I've been up to quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like, okay, so it's a full circle moment.
Yep.
Because I interviewed Jason in December. So I was telling Jason, this is like a Uno reverse card. The tables have turned. So he will be putting me on the spot today. But yeah, radio, I went into radio, I ventured into that, which was great. I really, really love that. And I do research work as well. So I work for a local think tank here. I do maritime security as my base study. And other than that, I'm modeling, then recently became an entrepreneur, started my own curly hair business.
Wait, hold on. What? What do you mean? What do you mean curly hair business?
Yes, I started my own curly hair business. It's crazy. But we realized that there were no products in the market that catered to curly hair.
Oh.
And it was
here.
In Sri Lanka.
Okay.
And
but aren't we like naturally curly haired people?
Right? We are naturally curly haired people. And we realized that people didn't cater to our hair type.
That's
so
wild.
Entered the market. We just launched it I think 2 weeks back. So it's very new. But it's exciting. There's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. And I'm just, going with it,
Do you know why we have curly hair at all? Like genetically why it's in our DNA? Like my hair right now, what does this look like? I can't tell. My hair right now looks a little bit wavy.
It is wavy curls, right?
Yeah.
Sri Lankan hair tends to be curly/wavy, and it has something to do with where we are situated in the world, because you usually see people for example, in more drier kind of humid climates have curly hair simply because our hair is searching for moisture in the air.
Right.
So because of that, our hair starts kind of basically frizzing out and becomes curly. So that's the science behind it, where our hair is basically searching for moisture in the air because it's so dry.
So we are like the Avatar aliens.
Basically, our hair has a mind of its own, basically. It's really interesting. There's a science behind it.
Yeah.
So researching it was really interesting. We took 1.5 years of research because we really wanted to make sure that it was catered to Sri Lankan hair. So it was a really cool time, and I think exciting.
That's awesome. Have you ever traced your genealogy?
I actually have. My ancestors on my dad's side were Irish originally. And they came down to England, and then my dad ended up, he's also half German. So there's a whole fruit salad melting pot situation going on there. In terms of my mom, it's also quite interesting. There's a little bit of Portuguese ancestry somewhere down the line. Yeah. But that is, when you tell people you're from Sri Lanka, there's always some sort of mix there. You know what I mean?
100%.
Somewhere down the line. So, yeah.
You can't define, what I think Sri Lanka is really people would like to associate skin color in majority of the world of where or what you would identify a person of a certain region is from. Yeah. But I think countries like Sri Lanka specifically is because we are, number one in trade routes. I think some of the is a ridiculous number, 75 or 85% worth of the world's trade passes through Sri Lanka.
That's so true. Yeah.
And this is part of your maritime studies, right?
It's so important. Sri Lanka's geographic position is so vital for maritime, maritime routes and everything, which is why I think it's interesting to study it now with everything going on, because you can also see a lot of interest coming into Sri Lanka now in terms of that. But you're completely right. Yeah.
What is, with this current situation that's going on, I was talking to a friend in the tea industry, and he was talking about how his company ships specifically to Azerbaijan. Okay. And because of this whole Strait of Hormuz issue going on, some of the trade routes are affected. So the first thing that they have to look at is an alternate route. Yeah. And so now we're looking at the inefficiency of trade and how that affects us back home is that they have to send tea, for example, if it's $4 for a bag of tea in that particular country, it stays the same. Okay. For that country, but it affects us. So we now have to send it to South Africa, which is the only port that's available for us to actually rechannel everything that's supposed to stop in the Middle East. So now they're going around.
It's just, and we usually bear the cost of everything somehow. So it's crazy. Like, I don't know, like the past couple of weeks, I think it's hit Sri Lanka pretty weirdly, you know, with everything going on.
But it's so funny, like how we're watching these fuel stands, kind of the lines growing growing again. It's funny in the sense like it's just another Friday for us. Yeah, it's like we're looking at each other and we're
and then you just see your neighbor also like, yeah, that's my neighbor over there. Like, hey, what's up? Like, you know, and it's crazy because I go to work very early in the morning. So by 5 o'clock, I'm out of the house.
Jeez.
Yeah, 5 o'clock. Yeah. I also don't know how I do it. I'm not a morning person, so it really, really beats me. But, you know, 5 o'clock and then you're leaving the house and there's like lines and lines of people like already like camping out there. It's you know, in a way, it's even though we don't know the exact thing, if it's panic buying, if there actually is a fuel shortage, we don't know because we're hearing so many different things. But I feel bad, you know, for the people, you know, and it's a lot a lot of people, I think, you know,
it's their bread and butter to be on the road and deliver and like whatever it is, like it just gets affected directly or indirectly, which is wild. So tell me about like this whole Maritime thing. So we've known each other for a while.
Yes,
you've been the face for many a things, but Miss Sri Lanka, Miss World pageant, that was like
that was my
iconic
launch pad.
The launch pad in Puerto Rico, right? That was
Puerto Rico.
What was that like for you to like take Sri Lanka to that point?
Okay, so it was really interesting because so the backstory behind that was, like you said, I was kind of like a jack of all trades. I started off in modeling. My first ever entry into modeling was with CC, Cotton Collection.
Right.
And then from there, I just started working. And by chance, I think because I was already in the industry, I met a few people that were in the beauty pageant industry.
Yeah.
And that year, the competition wasn't held. So they kind of were looking for somebody to just kind of nominate and send because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I just went at 19 years old. I just kind of packed my bags and just left to Puerto Rico. And I went back twice because I went back for the semifinals as well. And it was nuts. It was crazy. I loved the experience. It was something. At 19, when you're away from your parents, the world is your oyster. You know what I mean? Like, bye. You're going to miss me for 1 month.
I'm leaving to Puerto
I'm leaving. And that was the last time we saw Sade. You know? But it was really fun. But it was weird because I feel that it wasn't the right time also, obviously, for the country for beauty pageantry. Beauty pageantry wasn't a thing. There was so much bad misconception with it. When people thought about beauty pageantry, they're like, oh no, another beauty queen. Like that's kind of like the ideology they had with it.
How many beauty pageants do we have? Do you know?
Okay, so there are 4 main ones.
Okay.
And then there are like 50 to 60 maybe other ones. Yeah, in Sri Lanka there are a lot now. I think beauty pageantry has come up in every shape and form. Like if you open TikTok and you just search Miss Sri Lanka, you'll see 50 odd Miss Sri Lankas of different pageants. Yeah, it's crazy how much is, but it's a good thing because it's nice to see that, you know, it's starting to get a little bit more precedence here.
Yeah.
But it was wild back then. I think people weren't ready for beauty pageantry, like, you know, to support it as much because of COVID. We had bigger fish to fry, you know, so understandable.
That's right, because I remember the iconic ones of like Rosie Santanaika. And then you had like the former First Lady, Mrs. Rajapaksa. She was a Miss.
I think she was Miss,
And then you had like, you remember the faces and you're like, oh my God, this is, But now it's like a little bit confusing. In my opinion.
It's like, oh, she's a Miss Sri Lanka of what were you again? Like that's usually how it is. Like, you know,
the Eastern chapter.
Yeah.
Which
exactly.
And so you go do this thing and then you come back to Sri Lanka and then this was during COVID, right? The COVID year.
So it was during COVID, and then afterwards I left to Japan. I lived there for 4 years, studied there, did all of that. So it was very, very fast paced, and then graduated from Japan and came back to Sri Lanka and then started my own thing here. Started my business, started building my brand a little bit. And now I'm here. So it was very interesting. Yeah.
And you've been working with Colombo jewelry stores for
a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
About like, wow, it's been like nearly 4 or 5 years now.
Nice.
Yeah. Maybe 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And what made you want to kind of be the face of one of the faces? Because I know that he works with
Jacqueline Fernandez as well. Yeah.
You and then Asha DeVos as well. Like
that's right. Yeah.
I've seen the collection there.
Yeah. So he's so Akram Kasim, who is the CEO of CJS. He is just amazing because I feel like he wants to align the brand with people that he can kind of connect with and that can connect with the brand. So I feel like with Asha DeVos and even with me, like I came on board because he had kind of a vision of where he wanted the brand to go and move forward. And it was really easy for me to assimilate there because it's like a family, you know, like they're such easy people to work with, such fun and caring people to work with. So the 5 years of me being there, it's just like, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like just, hey, what's up? Like, nice to see you again. You know,
I love that. And it's a really good culture to have. Was the idea of CJS to connects, because I know iconically like Sri Lanka's like blue sapphire, right? Is like whenever people talk, whether it's the Queen's ring or the blue sapphire is like known because like of the monarchy's engagement at that time or whatever. And then you kind of we're slowly starting to tie in our identity to what we're known for across the world, whether it's blue sapphires, whether it's cinnamon, like Ceylon cinnamon is like sought after because it's the best cinnamon in the world. And we're still, I think from a national level, we're still trying to find our identity through that marketing.
That's true.
But I can see that private entities like CJS are actually being proactive with that.
And like moving with it. Like even with me, primarily, I came on board as the youth ambassador. So Jacqueline Fernandez is still the ambassador. I basically just cater to the youth market. And Akram is marketing the blue sapphire to the youth because it's our heritage. It's what we grew up with. When you have a christening or somebody's born, you give the the blue sapphire earrings with diamonds. So it's a big part of our culture, which is why I think it's really cool that I got to come on board on such a project.
What have you learned in terms of identity with the work that you've done as a model, and you're still modeling? Because like you said, it's confusing. We are a melting pot. Sri Lanka is a melting pot of these different cultures and ethnicities. But have you tried to figure out what you are whenever you?
That's a really, really interesting question because I think
that's like me literally saying, "What are you?"
Yeah, exactly. It's like, are you like? Have you identified yourself yet?
Who are
like,
you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. But actually, it's interesting because as a kid, I always identified myself as Sri Lankan because it was all I ever knew. I was born and raised here. I speak like a Sri Lankan. I grew up here. I studied in a Sri Lankan school as well. So I never identified myself with any of my other mixers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I never questioned my identity much until about 4 or 5 years ago, because I think when I got into Miss Sri Lanka, it became a bit of a sensitive subject about me being mixed, even though we've had mixed queens in the past. And of course we have like burgers as well, even though they have Ancestry that is mixed, technically they are still also mixed in a way. And there was a lot of discourse about whether I was Sri Lankan. So when, you, especially I think last year, 2 years ago also, that narrative came up again, which was quite interesting because whenever it comes up, it's like, so for example, on Reddit, I remember there was a whole like heap of people, netizens that were just like talking about like, about me and like my ancestry and like Miss Sri Lanka and stuff like that.
Bro, you got a Reddit thread? That's like, awesome.
It's like, but maybe let's not read that. Let's not go into that. But it was crazy, like, because a lot of people were kind of just being like, some people were supportive, some people were just like, yeah, but she's not Sri Lankan. So when people kind of question you, and then you feel, when you start reading the comments and then seeing so many people question if you really are truly Sri Sri Lankan, I kept asking myself, what does it mean to be Sri Lankan?
So good.
Which is what you also brought up in the start.
Yeah.
What is Sri Lanka? What is it to be Sri Lankan?
Yeah.
Because we're such a melting pot. We have so many backgrounds. We have so many ancestry. We have, where we literally are a melting pot. But it was just interesting to see that. And I think I started really questioning myself and, how I have to ask myself that question. What does it mean to be Sri Lankan? How do you identify someone that's Sri Lankan? So
it's such a interesting topic because I think we're trying to hold on to this identity. But yet our identity was changing. Every century there was something like that impacted who we are. And that drastically changed us for the following century after that. And so you can't really say, oh, we were this 100 years ago, but now we're kind of like mixed into this place. So by default, we should blame those people.
Exactly.
But I love that even though you can trace where you come from, and it's very hard in Sri Lanka, by the way, to like really trace like for me,
ancestry.
trace my ancestry, dude, like National Archives, love them, great people. They've helped me a lot, but it's just such a hard thing to do. But if you look at food, I feel like that's the best way to actually attach yourself to something because you can identify with food, right?
Very
like
true.
people like to claim that kotu is like a Sri Lankan thing. But is it really Sri Lankan?
Yeah, like lamprey as well. Like it's the Portuguese introduced that, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
I have a controversial take on that. There's Tasha Marikal, who has a show called Jaya Flavor on Nat Geo.
Okay.
Who did a special on that. Says that there is no such thing as a Dutch, but like lamprey is not a Dutch burger thing. It's controversial. I'm so sorry. It's yeah.
Da, da, da.
We should roll that clip back actually from what Tasha said. Let's put that in this podcast right now. Boom, play the clip.
I'm going to say something really controversial.
Okay, what is it?
The lamprey isn't really a burger thing. It's an Indonesian thing that they took from the Indonesians and now call it burger.
Okay, now we're back. But think about it. Like,
Jason's world will crash and burn.
You never know, right? Imagine all the aunties coming after me. You'd be like, what did you say about that pot shot to the head? But I mean, it's really cool to question that even. I think like questioning it makes it go deeper. And then we're talking like, I would like to know at some point, like, do we really need to go back deeper and further, or do we work with where we're at right now? And then instead of thinking about the past, like, can we think of what the next 40 years is going to look like for Sri Lanka? What does identity for Sri Lanka look like? For me, Singapore, when you look at Singapore, like when they looked at us in the 80s or the 70s, they were just like, we would like to be like Sri Lanka at that point. But we kind of lost our way, obviously, with the war and stuff. And now we're here again at this interesting junction to pivot and like choose, right?
That's true. We are kind of like, I feel somewhere along the way, we kind of lost, like you said, lost our way. And it's an interesting time because I was actually just talking to somebody about this as well. I feel that when you see what's actually happening around the world, and then you think about how much we as a country have been through in the past 5 years alone, it's actually amazing to see how vocal the youth is becoming here compared, I think, to other countries, which is very surprising. Like, I feel like a lot of like developed countries, I feel like the youth and even most of the population there, they don't speak much about those hard-hitting topics or the controversial ones anymore. They don't kind of want to hold people accountable. But what's interesting is that I think we're so fed up with living through this for so many years. You will see people not be scared to actually go out there and say, I'm not happy about this and this needs to change, you know? So I was just saying, like, it's interesting. I think Sri Lanka is definitely the place to be because, like you said, turning point. It's a huge turning point for us.
Absolutely. You had I remember you had a campaign called Think Blue, Go
That's right. Yeah. It was Think Blue, Go Blue, Go Blue, Think Green. Yeah, I think it was Go Blue, Think Green. Yeah, this is way back. I think this was about, 7 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe.
what was that about?
So that was actually pearl protectors, not exactly. That was a campaign that I helped with in terms of bringing it to the world stage with Miss Sri Lanka for Miss World.
Yeah.
It was interesting because Miss World has something called Beauty with a Purpose.
Yeah.
So if you get into the top 10 and then you get into the top 3, you get selected to they pay for the charity, like they
Okay.
give you money
That's
to
awesome.
kind of do something really, really cool. So I had to pick a charity here in Sri Lanka, and I ended up picking pearl protectors because I had previously worked with them.
Right. What do they do? What do
And,
pearl protectors
they do a lot of cool stuff. So they do turtle patrols. So, Velavatta Beach, the
Yeah.
Hivalabi, they have turtles there. And there's a
Yo.
huge poaching issue that happens in Colombo. And
In Colombo? Dude.
people make turtle soup. It's a thing.
No.
People take the turtles, they steal the
No.
eggs, and they make turtle soup, and they do all sorts of things. It's really, really horrible.
Bro, I didn't know this.
It's wild, and it's kind of like see, I myself did not know that turtles even existed in Velavatta Beach.
Yeah.
Right, because you don't hear about it. No
You
one
don't.
talks about
Yeah.
it because they also come out in the night, like in the odd wee hours of the morning. But what's really interesting is that you start to kind of like see how bad certain things are that people don't really take notice about. So Pearl Protectors kind of puts that out there, says, hey, we have an issue here, we need to do something about it. So during turtle season, they have turtle patrols in the night. So they have volunteers that walk on the beach, make sure the turtles can come and nest safely, because they're one of the only species in the world that will leave their nest and only ever come back to the same place that they were born to have their lay their eggs again.
Yeah.
So they use like echolocation, sort of magnetic force fields, like Star Wars kind of things, like there's a whole load of like really cool stuff that goes on there. And I think I got into diving because of them. So it's really, really cool.
Let's go. And so that kind of led to your maritime studies then.
Yeah. It was a huge, huge reason as to why I wanted to study maritime security.
Yeah.
And also because coming from an island, especially an island like Sri Lanka that is so strategically positioned, maritime security just made sense for me. So I'm currently trying to work on a research paper. I'm just in the process of proposing it to my think tank. So I'm excited about that. But it's very, very cool.
What have you been learning about? Like, again, dude, I had no idea that poaching was happening within the city itself when it comes to turtles. So that's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Which is also sad because those little dudes are already going through so much.
I know, and they're like, it's
freaking birds.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you want?
I
Now
know.
people?
Yeah, exactly. Like they can never catch a break, like Finding Nemo also was right. Like but the turtles, like the statistics with them is really wild as well.
Yeah.
So in a litter, you it depends, but you would get sometimes 50 to 100 to even much more. But out of that statistic, like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 will actually mature into adulthood.
Yeah.
Because the moment they go into the ocean, they just get like, they're like biscuits.
Yeah.
Like they're so like, because their shells are so soft. They're literally like biscuits.
Yeah.
That's how vulnerable and sensitive they are. They're little babies. But it's wild. It's really sad. It's sad to see, that humans have come to that point. But it's a tough one.
Yeah. With maritime securities, are you talking about securities for the country, or for like, is it more towards like the environment? Like, what is maritime securities about?
So maritime security is basically like the study of maritime law. So it's basically like EEZ, the economic exclusive zone, and like, which is something that has come up very recently, the importance of the EEZ in light of what has happened recently.
What has happened?
Off the shores of Sri Lanka, which I won't touch on too much.
We won't.
But it's very important, I think, to know a little bit about the maritime law because when it happened, there was so much of discourse about whether what they did was right or wrong. So from the perspective of someone that studied maritime security, it's interesting to see, I think, it happening in real life
In
and
real
be
time,
like,
yeah.
like, wow, this is nuts. So it's basically international law of the sea, basically the study of law in the sea. So usually when a submarine, even though we have so if it's in the economic exclusive zone, you still have to notify the country that you are passing through those waters.
Right.
But even if it is a few kilometers back, like even like you said, 40 kilometers, you still kind of have to also inform them that you're in that vicinity.
Yeah.
But submarines sometimes don't do that, and that is not very lawful.
Yeah.
You have to usually declare.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I think it's also just a bit of what is going on, a lot of risk and gamble. So
it's, I mean, it's full on Red October there is what happened, which is wild. But it was crazy because, you know, I haven't, like, we grew up in the war, and I'm sure you grew up with memories of the war as well. Yeah. When we were growing up, like, for us to see, like, the military have these towers with guns facing the ocean was, like, quite normal. Which is part of our development. But now it's, like, started up again. And I was at the Gulf Ace Hotel, and I'm just looking to my left. Oh my God, I just gave out the location of that tower. And we're like, oh, go to Gulf Ace Hotel, turn to your left and you'll see it. But it was great. I was just like, for me, it was kind of like, it was weird. It was a weird feeling because it was like in my head, and this might be completely wrong and I probably might lose some credibility here, but it felt nostalgic for me because that's what I grew up seeing, like seeing that. And so then I was just like, oh yeah, this feels kind of right. Which is wild for me to think that, right?
Wild. Yeah. It's really interesting because I feel like as a Gen Z, I feel like we were kind of like at the tail end of the war. And I feel like we were sheltered a lot by our parents. And, you know, I think my parents sheltered me a lot when it came to that. They never kind of, if something happened, if there was something in the newspaper they didn't want me to see, they'd be like, today we're not going to read the newspaper. We'll just like go out and do something, you know? So it was kind of like they really did not want me and my sister to know what was really happening around us. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. Because I'm a firm believer that I think if it's good or bad, I think you should also, to an extent, also tell your kids, like, hey, there's something like this. But it's interesting. I feel like Gen Z, we were pretty sheltered when it came to that. Yeah.
Do you know the significance of what Sinhalese and Tamil New Year is about?
No, but you have to tell me now that you said it aloud.
I was really hoping that you would know.
Okay.
Because I don't know.
Oh, the significance of Sinhala Tamil New Year. Isn't it the harvest?
Right.
It's a harvest, isn't it? Because I think
totally knew that.
Because I think with Sinhala Tamil New Year in the villages, I think they do the harvesting season because I think that's the time when they cull the rice and stuff and the wheat. So I think that's why they celebrate, kind of like prosperity to the harvest.
Yeah, you just proved that you're more Sri Lankan than I am.
What does it mean to be Sri Lankan? You know what Sinhala and Tamil New Year is all about.
Shit.
Hey! Jason's going to give me an exam paper by the end of this.
That's good. Hey, dude, we did it. We answered the question.
We answered it.
We started with the question and we just like...
Am I Sri Lankan yet, Jason?
Heck yeah, you are.
Yay!
Heck yeah.
That's what I want to hear.
I think we're all... I mean, even if you are, you know, married to a Sri Lankan and you end up living here for many years, or even if you're not married, if you end up living here in Sri Lanka, there's a culture in Sri Lanka that you have to adapt to. And if you don't adapt to it, then I don't think you are fully embraced what it means to be Sri Lankan, because we're very easy. I think even within Sri Lanka, you have Sri Lankans who are born here, very easy to criticize where we're at. Very easy for us to criticize our road systems, very easy to criticize like what's not working. But sometimes it takes a different perspective to be grounded, to know that things might just work. I like to compare it to our traffic system. Like it's an ebb and flow. You have to always look at it, but like, instead of complaining of like where this guy is driving or this lady is driving, you can kind of just understand that, oh, there's this trust, this ebb and flow. Like she's going to be veering to the right, so I will
That's
also
so
veer to the
true.
right.
It's like one common brain
Yep.
cell, like a consciousness that we can't
Yep.
see. You know,
Yep.
everyone's connected.
So good.
It's like when you're out in public and you see someone and you just stare at them and you're like, Sri Lankan. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like a common consensus. Like,
Yeah.
they'll look at you, you look at them, you're like, like, you know what I mean?
It is.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
that I think is when you are Sri Lankan. I think that's what it is.
The
Is
common consensus.
when you have hive-minded yourself into the Sri Lankan lifestyle and thought process.
That's right. Telepathy. That's what I like to call it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is true. That maybe we've cracked the code.
We have.
Maybe that is what it's like.
We just did that. This podcast is going to go viral.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is it.
We've done it, guys.
The
Okay.
title of this podcast
You're
is
welcome.
We
Okay.
Figured Out What It Is to Be Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye.
Peace out.
But okay, so like modeling, sorry to such a hacky. We're just like going
Yeah,
on,
like-
which is great. I love it. So your modeling career started when you were 19.
Yeah.
And then Jackie, we've worked with the model atelier with Jackie May, and we've obviously known you. And so getting into this modeling sphere, do you feel like, because there's different stories, there's different perspectives, there's dark sides to it,
Definitely,
and there's
yeah.
light sides to it. What have you kind of experienced in your stint as a model?
So, okay. So, interesting fact is that when I entered the modeling industry, I was young. I was 14.
Whoa.
I was I was pretty young, but my parents are very strict. So my parents had a deal with me where if I did want to do modeling, they would have to come for all the shoots up until I was 18, and then I could do whatever I wanted. Fair.
Yeah.
So my parents used to come for all the castings, everything, and for one whole year when I joined the modeling industry, I couldn't book work. Like I went for castings, I went for everything. But it became an issue of me being too young, me being like inexperienced, me being like not Sri Lankan enough kind of thing.
The question,
So it was only until I was about 15 when towards the tail end of me being 15 when I actually got work. And then it was just one opportunity that kind of just opened a lot of doors for me. But back to your previous question about the modeling industry, it's a hit or miss. I think I'm very lucky because I'm very lucky to have someone like Jackie who's like kind of no nonsense. Like she's like, it's and like she's very protective of her girls and her guys. So it's I think it was very easy because I was sheltered a lot.
Yeah.
And she's like a second mom to me. But there were so many funny instances, so many funny stories that have happened to me over the years. Like wild stories. Like I remember once I went for a casting and I was so sure that was the casting house because I had been there before.
Okay.
Unbeknownst to me, what I didn't know was that the house is identical to the studio. So I just kind of knocked on the door, let myself in, sat myself down on the couch, and then just kind of made myself comfortable. Like, hey, this casting guy's going to come down any minute now. And then all of a sudden, Jason's looking at me like, what? Who have you let into this studio? I sat myself down and I was there with my little suitcase. Like I was moving into this house, modeling bag.
Yeah.
And down comes this guy in like a, white wife beater and a sarong and just looks at me. And he's like thinking, who is this white girl in my house? And he just stares at me and he's like, who are you? And I said, oh, I'm here for the casting. And he just stares at me. He's like, like thinking maybe his wife has, invited someone that he doesn't know. So he goes back up and brings his wife. And then the wife is also staring at me saying, who are you, Puta? Who are you? And it was really bad. I slowly started realizing the tail end of that conversation that they had no idea who I was and I had just basically walked into their house.
Yeah.
They were super nice. They weren't like Hannibal Lecter, which was great. That would have ended very badly for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. That was one story. So many weird stories over the years, but all in all, good ones, And don't think I had like one, like touch wood, one that was really bad. Bad experience.
Yeah, because like it's an interesting place to navigate through because we've heard, at least being part of that industry from the filming side, and telling that story, like you hear the different perspectives of what people might have gone through. It's just wild to think that there is a side of that industry that you need to be aware of. But then I love that you were kind of like protected in it. It's just like, no, but you're in this frequency where I feel like you haven't experienced anything that's been too wild.
I mean, I sometimes I do get DMs that I think are very, very alarming. Like
Really?
sometimes I'll get a DM from somebody that is in the modeling industry, and it's usually girls that say that people ask them to do like pictures that are very, very like kind of like in like their underwear and stuff like that, and then they'll ask me, is that normal? And I'll be like, no, it's not normal, especially if you're new to the industry and you are not going into that. That's definitely not normal. And some of them are young girls, like 16, 15, 17, which is very, very, very wrong and awful. And I always say like, you need to report this. If you're underage, report to the police. And like if you're some of the girls that are overage, I always say like, you don't like, no, you have to, I would recommend you to go through an agency. Like don't do it freelance, because there are a lot of creepazoids out there. Like a lot of weird people that have nefarious, things behind, in their heads. So, but it's wild. It really is wild. And I hope that's not the case, but I do get that occasional DM once in a while where it's just like, whoa, okay. That's bad.
Maybe we should do a series together.
We should.
We should do let's do an expose series.
Exactly.
Like, let's look at the DM today.
Like
let's go track this guy down.
Exactly.
They're like, hey, buddy, we're here at your workplace.
Exactly. Like, catfish, they have that catfish thing.
Show.
That would be so
Should we do a catfish show?
Let's do a catfish show.
Oh
sure.
my God.
That would be like wild. Like how many catfishes are out there? Probably a lot on Instagram. So many people impersonating other people. And I do know from a friend of mine that people impersonate other people in well-known people here in Sri Lanka on Tinder and dating apps. That I learned from a friend of mine, because she matched with someone who is in the public eye. And then later on realized it wasn't that person.
Wow.
It was just somebody impersonating said person. So,
that's scary. Did she go to meet that person?
She didn't. She kind of caught on because, it was finally in public, this person kind of met her and then looked at her and said, I have no idea who this girl is.
Oh my God.
In a public setting with other people. And then she was like, what? He's like, no, I have never met you before. And then she kind of realized that she was catfished.
Oh, shit.
So it is a thing. It's happening really badly here.
And you think Colombo is such a small circle that you'd be able to like figure it out and pick
up on it pretty quickly. But Colombo it's very small. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know. But it is extremely small. So yeah.
That's why, dude, I really think we should start a catfish show.
Yeah, that's it. You heard it here first. It's happening.
What should we call the show?
We'll call it, we'll give it like a Sri Lankan twist to it,
Yeah.
Like
Pusa Malu.
Exactly. Pusa Malu or like, actually. All of them are looking like, oh God, Jason, man, come on. You can do better than that.
Hey, Tigalaru. We just started, we're launching a show with this Tigalaru. Pusa Malu.
Pusa Malu. You heard it here first. And then just put I film in the front. So I film Pusa Malu. I don't know if people, maybe that'll cater to the wrong audience. Maybe let's not.
But you know what the sad thing is though, just thinking about fish, is that I realized I love fish buns in Sri Lanka.
Malu banis.
Yeah, malu banis is like, man, that is home. But I realized that over the years, what used to be a good fish bun is now turned into like a potato bun. There's no fish anymore.
There's no fish anymore. And that is a crime against humanity, if you ask me.
Yeah, dude.
And I think like bakeries, if you're watching this podcast.
Yeah. Thinking of coming as a sponsor, as a bakery on this podcast, dude.
Yeah.
Sorry. Get your fish in your
order.
buns.
Yeah. We're going to be checking the buns.
That's another show.
Jason will be checking all the buns to make sure there's fish in it. Just to clarify.
Yeah, we've launched 2 shows on this podcast. It's Pusa Malu and then The Hunt for the Perfect Fish Bun.
Yeah, very, very cool. See, when great minds think alike.
Yeah, you're inspiring us with your mind.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So what do you suggest in terms of, I know this is just like going from like Pusa Malu to Maritime.
All spectrums.
Dude,
We're
I love
covering all topics today.
Oh my God. This is why I love having friends on the podcast.
It's so unhinged. It's so unhinged.
It's just what it is. It's so good. With I don't even know where we go with this thing at this point. This is hilarious. With maritime securities, what is your goal with this thing? Like, are you planning on creating like the underwater Iron Dome for Sri Lanka? Because we are valuable real estate, whether people like to admit it or not. We are super valuable, and anyone would want a part of our country as a strategic location for trade. What are your thoughts of Sri Lanka's future, at least roughly? I know you're doing a research paper on it and you're about to present it to your peers and stuff, but where does Sri Lanka need to, or how does Sri Lanka need to frame it for themselves for the next 10 years, given the war has just started in the Middle East? Where does Sri Lanka need to position itself in terms of like securing itself?
Yeah, I think like that's a little bit of a heavy question. But okay, so from the get-go, I just wanted to say, since the tail old time of international relations, when it was first founded, international relations has always been a Western discourse.
Yeah.
We've had Western scholars. It's never really been anybody from Asia or the Eastern discourse that has been recognized. Very few scholars, maybe Arabic scholars back in the day. And even here in Sri Lanka, we have so many brilliant professors, scholars, writers, people that actually write really, really good papers, but they don't get the recognition or the platform that they need to kind of have their narrative spoken about or their perspective spoken about.
Yeah.
So a lot of that valuable information just trickles down and just kind of gets buried under all kind of the Western discourse again in present times, I like to think. So I'm hoping in Sri Lanka we'll see more young people go into international relations and try to, write more research, write more papers. I know it's not an industry that is very favorable, I want to say, to scholars, because I feel like scholars in general are very underpaid here. Professors, teachers, very underpaid. So I know it's not an incentive. It's usually a passion project for many people. Like it is for me, it's a passion project of mine because it was my field of research. But in terms of the 10 years for Sri Lanka, I think this is based on me just coming in with just my opinion.
I love it.
Grain of salt, please.
Yes.
But I think Sri Lanka needs to be very, very careful with how it positions itself. Simply because I think because of our strategic location in the next 10 years, we're going to get a lot of, I think, interest in not only in our waters, but in our land as well. And I think that's going to put us in a bit of a situation where we'll be kind of pressured to pick sides. And so it's important usually for smaller countries to kind of maintain their sovereignty and just maintain their independence as well. Basically, don't put your eggs in too many baskets,
Which is kind of like what the position we're kind of in right now, right?
You have to be very careful. Like it's a tough one.
I love that your generation is more informed about what's currently going on, though. I think like that's what I feel like Gen Z specifically, I find them very interesting. There's a spectrum to Gen Z. There's like the ones that get super distracted very easily. The ones that give up very easily. And then you have this specific side of Gen Z, which I think definitely you're a part of. That's like very well in tune with what's going on. And they know how to I wouldn't say manipulate, but maybe that's the word. But you know how to manipulate when something is wrong, you know how to move it in the right direction. And I feel like that's a skill.
We can adapt really well. I feel like Gen Zs can adapt really well. But you're the first person to actually compliment Gen Zs because every person, so when I joined radio as well, I met so many people and I was one of the youngest people that joined. And I remember we had, I think all of a sudden there were like 3 or 4 now most of radio is Gen Zs now. And it was funny because somebody senior turned around and said, Gen Zs are the weirdest because they'll come to work one day and be like, I'm not in the mood to kind of put up with this job anymore. Here's my resignation, like, bye. So I feel like Gen Zs are also not afraid to like leave situations that are kind of like, oh man, this is like draining my thunder. Like, like I can't do this.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because you don't see that with like my parents' generation or like other generations, because for them, they stay in a job they're so unhappy with and they stay with it for years and years and years until it like drains the life out of them.
Yeah.
But for Gen Zs, it's kind of like, I'm not vibing with this right now. Like, I'm not vibing. And then they just leave the job, you know? So it's great. I love seeing that. It's a good thing and a bad thing maybe, but yeah, it's great that Gen Zs have that.
Yeah, it's a mix, right? Like it doesn't teach you longevity in that process. I think like we were talking with this guy on a podcast, Khalid Osman, who's vision impaired triathlete. And you listen to this guy talk about like, hey, if there's like a will, there's a way. If I don't try it, I can't complete it. Yeah. Like it's this mentality of like going till the last smile to see if you can get it done or not.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why I said like there's a spectrum to Gen Z. There's a unique side of folks that are just like ready to like take something on and like take on the world. Yeah. And then there's a side that's like you were saying, that's just like, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, it's just like, I'm chill, I'm happy doing like the bare minimum, staying at home kind of thing. Yeah. There are two extremes, I feel. Two extremes.
Yeah, we got to Marty Supreme the heck out of your life, in my opinion. Have you watched that movie, Marty Supreme?
I've seen so many clips of it. I've wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
I was going to watch it, but I think it's out of cinemas now.
Oh, no.
So.
Well, I mean, it's not
I think it is.
Like you can find it. On other sides, we never said that.
Yeah.
That is not
must have been
what
the
we
wind.
were saying. What?
Must have been the wind.
Huh? Somebody say turtles? Okay, so our show will start officially in 2026. Pusa Malu will be season 1 will begin.
That's right. Yeah.
Dude, I love this.
I love this.
I really think Pusa Malu is going to be big.
It's going to be a hit. There are so many people that are going to watch this episode and delete their accounts now.
Yeah, I think we're gonna put a voter thing. Let's start a new Reddit thread as well. Yeah. A voter thread that we're putting this clip out. Like, leave your comments in the section below if you think Pusa Malu should become an actual show.
Yeah,
Sri Lanka's catfish.
You heard it here first. I honestly think we should go for it.
I'm in.
I film Pusa Malu.
I film Pusa Malu.
Let's go.
Can't believe we just came up with that. That's awesome. Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
I appreciate it. This was fun. This was light. But also stark realities of freaking turtles in
that I just ruined your day, didn't I? You're gonna go home and you're gonna think about it. You're like, man, turtle soup. Man.
Yeah. I mean, we gotta do something about it because like the little dudes are all like we have.
Yeah, and they're like biscuits. Always remember that. Just think of like a biscuit and you think of turtles.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sade, I appreciate you. We will conclude this podcast.
Yes.